Apple. Like the fruit?
The fruit.
Yeah. Do you know that the title of this film is lowercase j, uppercase OBS? Ashton Kutcher as Steve Jobs, he did a good job.
What a great job.
Damn it, he did a good job.
How great was the walk?
Yes,
the walk is unforgettable.
Fires the programmer, right? And then the one employee is like, that was our best programmer. And Steve Jobs' response was,
he's the best programmer that doesn't care about our vision.
He's just like, ah.
Jobs must be rolling in his grave right now. I wonder what he would think about what Apple makes today.
You can see that he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's like when Transformers was made without Michael Bay involved. You could just see.
So what if Apple was never created?
Then this show would have been edited in Premiere Pro.
Oh no.
Apparently, people like DaVinci, and if you don't know who that is, it's not an editing software. No, it was a person first. Oh my gosh.
You know when you switch on your Mac and you hear that go?
Yeah.
It's from a Beatles song. One of the songs starts off with that.
That makes so much sense.
Crazy
That's
enough.
so cool.
So when I heard Beatle and all of that, I was just like,
that makes What is up?
How are you doing?
This is the movie show
on Active TV.
My name is Sash.
And I am Ryan.
And I have a question, Ryan.
Oh no.
Why are all geniuses jerks?
Because being jerky is a genius.
Don't you agree though? No, that what you just said did not make any sense.
I didn't say I believe in. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Like that was literally one of the first things that came into my mind while we were watching this film was, why are all geniuses jerks?
Well, I think it's because, I don't know.
I did some research into it. So just to give you a heads up, we are doing a review for the Steve Jobs film. There are a couple of them, so we'll go into which one we actually chose to actually do.
Well, that one.
This one behind us, yeah. But I did research because I was like, no man, if you keep watching like this film, you watch like The Social Network, you watch even like something like The Founder, which was the McDonald's story, like these brilliant human beings that created the most incredible corporations are idiots. They are terrible human beings. Like you just look at them and you're like, what's wrong with you? And then I did research. So they say that because like often geniuses can be very detailed and intricate and, you know, they obsessed with whatever it is that they're doing, that can often cause them to then almost lack on the emotional intelligence side of things just because they are highly intelligent, if that makes sense. However, because now it's the question of, okay, so if you're a genius, then do we just allow you to be a jerk, you know, because you're a genius? But apparently, people like DaVinci, and if you don't know who that is, it's not an editing software. No, it was a person first. Oh my gosh. So he was a very, very, very famous and incredible artist. And then also someone like Einstein. So also completely different type of genius, but both absolute geniuses in their fields. Apparently, it was said of them that they were both very kind and very humorous. So, therefore, I conclude that geniuses don't have to be jerks.
So it's just those people.
It's a choice. Damn it. But actually, I feel like the Steve Jobs story kind of shows that because he has a redemptive arc to him more than even like what Mark Zuckerberg had. Yeah.
So if you actually go check the history of Steve Jobs, he had his, and I knew in the movie that it was coming when his company was going to just...
Oh, shame.
And then he had some time by himself, and then he came back, and then I know he went on to design like Pixar, the building that they worked in, and the whole point, he designed that building in a way that everybody kind of crossed each other. Yeah. They kind of crossed each other somewhere. I know that they put like the bathrooms, the kitchen, and that stuff, like the work kitchen and that, like somewhere in the center, so that everybody kind of works well together, you know, blah, 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 etc. So I think it was just maybe just something he had to learn.
Which is crazy because in the beginning of the story, you see how he literally didn't want to work with people so much that like he would be working late at night because he didn't like and he literally states, I don't want to work with these people. So the fact that it went to the degree that he designed a building so that all of the people that work there actually interact with one another is actually quite incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's an interesting story. So if you don't know Steve Jobs, yes, he was basically fired from his own, the board got rid of him as CEO. It's crazy things. And then during the time that he was no longer the head of Apple, he then went on to, which this film depicts, he went on to create a company called Next, which they then would go and build all of Apple's ISO, the software would then be run off that company. So Apple then bought Next, and then the other company was Pixar, which is the animation studio. But you really see how he, as a person, he like really grew during that time and went from being literally they got rid of him because he just couldn't work with other people, to the point where he was creating spaces for people to ensure that people are working together.
And it's crazy because like he would have a conflict, and then you'd like on the sideline gather a new team around there. He's like, okay guys, listen, stuff that idea. This is what we're gonna do, all right?
I'm not trying to take Macintosh away from you. I want you on this team. But you can either get on board or you can get the...
What was crazy was he was an incredible visionary, like incredible
He had
visionary.
ideas.
He had so many different ideas. And what was crazy was he always would pull a team together because he knew that he couldn't achieve it by himself. But then, shame, he just needed to learn to, like be grateful for. I think that was his problem, was he exploited people, which they show in this film. Because him and a guy named Steve Wazinski. Wazinski?
Yeah, I also can't pronounce it.
I think he's Canadian.
I was actually listening to a podcast like last week with him.
Serious?
They were interviewing him. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And he was talking...
They never... Who was it? No.
Apparently, so obviously he left, but he was still getting paid by Apple.
Oh, okay.
I think he was like a shareholder or some sort.
But then I know that the CEO that was... Scully, who was the Pepsi guy.
I actually Googled as they were going along. I was like, wait, who's this?
They never fixed their relationship. So he was the one that took over from Steve Jobs when Steve Jobs was removed from being the founder.
Yeah.
But they apparently never, because obviously Steve Jobs passed away in 2011, so they never actually fixed that relationship. But now in terms of Steve Jobs films, because there's actually been a lot of movies and documentaries made on Steve Jobs. So which one did we pick, and then which one should you pick? So out of all of them, there's lots. The most notable are 3. Right? So the first one is Pirates of Silicon Valley, which was actually made in 1999, right? And that one has Noah Weil as Steve Jobs. The focus in that one is mainly on the rivalry between Steve Jobs, a founder of Apple, and Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft. And the style of this movie is a TV movie with light, almost like a comedic tone to it, but it's very historically accurate. So that's like the oldest one, which was 1999. Then you have Jobs, which is this one that we watched, 2013. I actually thought it was pretty cool. Do you know that the title of this film is actually lowercase j, uppercase OBS? I just respect the person that did that.
Okay.
Good on you. Okay, anyway. Nice. So that has Ashton Kutcher as Steve Jobs. He did a good job.
What a great job.
Damn it, he did a good job.
How great was the walk?
Yes,
the walk is unforgettable.
I know, and we've mentioned this before on the movie show years back, that Ashton Kutcher did method acting. So he listened to all of the music that Steve Jobs liked, so like a lot of Bob Dylan. He dressed like him, and he did his fruitarian diet, which caused him a week before filming started to get sent to hospital for pancreatitis, which is how Steve Jobs died, was from pancreatic cancer. Anyway, so he did the method acting, but he did a good job. He did a very good job. Yeah. And then this one, so the focus of this film is Jobs' journey from college, from being a college dropout actually, to Apple's rise, then his ousting from Apple, and then eventual return. And the style of this film is a traditional biopic covering a wide timeline, very inspirational. This film is very inspirational. If you want to be inspired, watch this one. That's very good. Showing his drive. This film was criticized for skipping key moments.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's one of the things. They apparently said, also they said there wasn't enough character depth of jobs. But I personally feel like...
I think this was cool because I think, while you could cover a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you have to pick.
I think this was very focused on his whole character.
I feel like it was focused on what he built, what he achieved, like in his life, the failure that he went through, but then the fact that he came out of it. Yeah. And then there's another one, other than there's lots of them, but then the third one that I'm going to mention is the 2015 movie Steve Jobs. So the actor is Michael Fassbender. If you don't know who that is, he's a good actor. That guy's a good actor. I know him the best from, X-Men when they went back in time. He played Magneto, but the young version of Magneto, not the old version of Magneto.
Oh.
Yeah. So he plays Steve Jobs, and then the focus of this
crazy.
one, the 2015 one, it focuses on Jobs' personality and relationships, and then it's told. So they tell his story through 3 product launches. So the first one was Macintosh, which is quite. I mean, that's at the end of this film. Then the company next, and then lastly iMac, which he made after he returned to Apple. And then this one is more of a theatrical drama with intense dialogue. It's written by Aaron Sorkin, who wrote The Social Network. So it's like that version of a founder movie. It's less about Apple's history and more about Jobs as a person. However, I would like to say I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I enjoyed it more than The Social Network. Like this one, I really enjoyed. Got to the end and I was like, it was a good movie. Like Social Network, you're just like, damn, geniuses are jerks. This one started like that, but then by the end you're just like, I'm so proud of you. Yeah, no, it was obviously very sad that he passed away. Yeah, but yeah.
I actually wonder, still today, I wonder what he would think about what Apple makes today. Because in some ways, like, they carry on that whole, do something different kind of thing.
But you can see that he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's like when Transformers was made without Michael Bay involved. You could just see that Michael Bay was not involved, basically.
Like, often I see things, I'm like, Steve Jobs must be rolling in his grave right now.
He's just like, yeah.
Like when they just removed the whole, the DVD tray out of machines, I'm like, he must be happy right now that they did something different.
They did something different.
Because it's crazy. It's one of those things that are necessary, but they're like, no, we don't need these. But we do need them, but
no, let's just, we don't need them.
People will just follow.
Yeah.
And that's literally what happened.
Which is what happened, like always with Apple.
And people adapted to it, which like we see in the movie how like the removable keyboard. I was always wondering about what was so special about what they created, that first invention with what him and Steve worked on with the whole screen.
Steve.
Because before that, the terminal printed out the code, and then now you saw it on screen.
Yeah, on your TV.
Yeah, which was has never been done before.
Yeah. I think that's what made Apple so special, was they just did things that had never been done before. But you know the house that's in the film where Steve and Steve start Apple, and then they build the what was it, Apple 1 and then Apple 2.
That looks so nice.
That house was the actual house that Steve Jobs grew up in.
Like
the actual location.
Cool.
Yeah. So they actually went to the actual house that Steve Jobs.
So you're saying that when you saw him sitting in the garage with the guys, it's like that was
legit.
Wow.
Yeah. That was legit. I also tried to look for the Polaroid, like the actual Polaroid, but they didn't have an actual Polaroid of the guys, the one the mom took, but they did have a Polaroid image of that original Apple 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I loved, there was a shot at 18 minutes into the film. I still went to look because I was like, oh my gosh, it was the first time that Steve Jobs saw the code on the screen, and they got a shot of his eye. And you could see the reflection of the code in his eye. Nice. I love that shot. It tells so much of the story of Jobs. That was a brilliant shot. 2 of my favorite lines from the film. The first one's weird, but I laughed. In the beginning of the film, Steve Jobs gets high with 2 of his friends, and then he starts speaking, and his friend complains, and he goes,
"Oh yeah, that's bad. This is making me really sad.
Sorry that My life is ruining your high.
I'm sorry that my life is ruining your high. I was finished. I was like, oh my gosh, that's sad. When you know your life's bad, when it ruins someone else's high. But then the second line, and I thought this was, I was like, damn, you know, you like bars, like that was deep, was when he fires the programmer, right? And then the one employee's like, that was our best programmer. And Steve Jobs' response was,
He's the best programmer that doesn't care about our vision.
he's the best programmer who doesn't care about our vision.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that's deep, you know? 'Cause,
Crazy.
like any founder anywhere would be like, because like vision, you really see what happens when the vision is not upheld. I would highly recommend that you go and watch this film. It was very.
I actually watched it. I watched it with my wife.
Really?
And,
Did
and
she enjoy it?
Yeah. We also sat and Googled. We also looked at, because at the end they show the real characters.
Yes,
and
that
the
was cool. That was cool.
And my wife was instantly, she was like, wow, they hit Steve Jobs on the dot.
Yeah. Yeah.
With his beard and stuff.
No, he did such a good job.
It was
Even
just
the
like-
hairstyling. And the last thing I'll say is I love the costume design.
Yeah.
Specifically because until he comes back to Apple after he's been let go and all of that, the way they dressed him, you could see he felt uncomfortable in his clothing the entire time. And I felt like even through costume design, they were trying to depict that he was trying to fit into like a mold of, you know, like what a founder should look like, how a founder should dress, what a founder should do. And Steve Jobs just never fit in the mold. That's why he created something that was incredible, was because he was never, you couldn't fit him in that mold. And then at the end, you see he wears the turtlenecks. He's got the shorts, which is how and then the glasses, obviously, which is how I know Steve Jobs. Obviously, as he aged, his hair got shorter and shorter and stuff. But I thought that was very smart. How they showed how his character developed through the costume design from the start of the film to the end of the film, and then the fact that he was barefoot. Like Quentin Tarantino must have just been like, yes.
It was crazy though.
Yeah.
I felt him though.
When he walked out, he just kicked his shoe in the air.
Walking around in bare feet, it's cool.
No, I can't do
nice.
that. I used to do it as a kid.
Is it?
Now I'm more of the Korean type. I
very
like
nice.
slippers. Slippers
is
make
it?
a lot of. I just don't like my feet getting dirty. Like I can't stand dirty feet.
Nah, it's nice.
It disgusts me.
It's nice. It's very nice. And by the way, the beginning of the film, I really appreciated the fact that they chose that, you know, between the director and the cinematographer, it would have been the director, how they chose to keep the long shots of him, like in that hall, that Apple hall, because obviously once it switched and you saw kind of more close-ups, like I almost felt like I was like, wait, this really looks like Steve, like, because all you saw was his figure, like quite a distance.
Like
okay, although mind you, I was watching on a smallish screen, but I really felt the long shots like kept for a moment, you weren't thinking about, Ashton.
You were thinking
Steve
Jobs.
I was thinking Steve Jobs.
Wow.
Like you just saw this like kind of grey hair. You saw the turtleneck. I think he was wearing like a turtleneck thing.
Yeah, black.
And even his walk, the way he walked on. And
that walk.
and then like for quite a while they kept it. And then eventually they cut to the close-up and you're like, oh, yeah. Ashton.
I recently watched A Complete Unknown, which is the biopic of Bob Dylan, the artist Bob Dylan.
I want to watch that.
And because of that, I
watch
recognized Bob Dylan's music because Steve
is
Jobs
it?
was a huge... So between him, Steve Jobs and Steve Wazowski liked the Beatles and Steve Jobs liked Bob Dylan, which they were at the same time but completely different styles. So like it shows the type of person you are based on like which artist you liked. And I thoroughly enjoyed hearing Bob Dylan's music, which I only know now because of the film A Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
But that was cool as well.
My dad is a huge Bob Dylan
Serious?
fan. So I know like all of his songs.
And the what is that thing called? Not the accordion.
The harmonic.
Yeah, even the fact that he was playing it at one point.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So just fun fact, you know when you switch on your Mac and you hear that go,
Yeah.
it's from a Beatles song. One of the songs starts off with that.
That makes so
with
much
that song.
sense. Oh,
Crazy
that's
enough.
so cool.
So when I heard Beatle and all of that, I was just like,
that makes
there you go.
And the fact that he even wanted to name it after something in Star Wars, and he was like, nope, something.
Apple.
Apple. Like the fruit?
The fruit.
Yeah. We'll change it if it doesn't
It's
fit.
like the beginning of it.
And then, Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. So definitely go watch it.
Yeah, that camera's popping. Let's go.
My God, are we falling through the cracks too long? Till we see the back of sunset. My God, we gotta dancing with the past, but nobody knows. I never wanna be those people. I wanna see the world keep turning round. I never wanna be those people now. We gon' fly to the moon. And my heart ever alone. Tonight, we gon' sit on the moon. And my heart ever alone. Tonight,
So what if out of the whole movie, somewhere along the line, Apple was never created? Like you get the investor and invested. Like what if it never happened? And Apple was never made?
Then this show would have been edited in Premiere Pro and might have failed. No, I'm joking.
You understand what I'm saying? Like what phone would you have, Sash, right now? No, yeah, what phone would you'd be sitting with
That's
an
a very good. Like I was watching it on my Mac. I was watching this movie on my Mac and thinking, wow, I wouldn't be watching this on this if it weren't for this,
In fact, I was watching it on my wife's Mac, and the way we were sitting, the Mac kept sliding back because she was sitting, so it was facing both of us, and it kept sliding back to me. And I'm like, it's because that dude over there created with an with the with the body, and that's why it keeps sliding back.
That's why it keeps sliding back. Yeah. My what if would have been or would be, what if Steve Jobs wasn't a joke?
Yeah.
I think he could have accomplished more with Apple. I don't think he would have gotten
He might have
chased out of his company. Because look at what he created after he came back, when he had learned all the lessons, like the iPod.
Yeah.
The iPod made, like, I know, like, yes, the Apple, whatever, they were all like, and Macintosh, very good. But the iPod changed the world.
Yeah.
And that's what he wanted to do. Steve Jobs wanted to change the world. The iPod even changed the world for music artists. Their industry today, they should be mad because their industry today is not the same because of what the iPod did. And then obviously eventually you have
Everyone
like
else that
streaming
followed.
services. Yeah. So like, what if he had just not been a joke? I feel like he would have accomplished a lot more, because what he accomplished when he had learned all the lessons was incredible. So what if he just don't be a jerk, people.
The end.